Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this Scream Factory movie review video as part of my Scream Factory review series for the month of May, where I'm taking a look at watching and reviewing random movies from my Scream Factory collection. So today we're going to take a look at one that I've had in my collection for a while. It's an IFC Midnight film with a slipcover, and that is Trespassers. Um, the movie's actually also known as Hell is Where the Home Is. But I don't know. I think, excuse me, I think that's what they originally were going to call it, but they ended up going with Trespassers. So yeah, I have this movie with the slipcover here. As I said, it's an IFC Midnight Screen Factory, which I have a few of those in my collection here. But a brutally sleazy home invasion thriller, simple, sadistic, and definitely not for the squeamish. That's that's the review that's on the back there. If you guys want to do a little pause there. But anyway, yeah, Trespassers is from 2018, so it's fairly new. It's a home invasion movie, of course. I didn't know anything about it. I'd never even seen the trailer for it. So I completely went in blind on this one. And so, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into the premise of it and then what I thought of it in my review. So, Hell is Where the Home Is, also known as Trespassers, is a 2018 American home invasion thriller film directed by Orson Oblowitz. I think it's Orson Oblowitz. So basically, the film opens with two couples are renting a luxury home in the desert to get away from it all and enjoy a fun weekend together. Sarah and Joseph are in a long-term relationship dealing with the loss of their baby, and Estelle and Victor are in a newer relationship, which she clearly dominates, much to the chagrin of Sarah. The two women reconnect after admitting they could have tried harder to keep in touch. On the second night, a mysterious woman knocks on the door claiming to be a neighbor who knows the house owners and asks to use the phone as she is having car trouble. Sarah wants to allow her in, but Victor protests. Eventually, they allow her to make a phone call, and she claims to have called home to assure the babysitter and her son she is safe. After offering Sarah and Joseph unwanted advice, she heads back to call a tow truck. After a while, with the woman still in the house and her car not being on the side of the road any longer, along with Estelle catching her out as not knowing the homeowners, Victor decides to kick her out. So yeah, that's kind of how it starts out. That's the setup and the premise. Pretty mysterious beginning there. As far as the cast goes, Angela Trimber as Sarah, Janelle Parrish as Estelle, Jonathan Howard as Victor, Zach Avery as Joseph, Feruza Balk as the Visitor, and Carlo Rhoda as Sergeant Daniels. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Trespassers from 2018. Um, so I have to say, well, every once in a while, there's a movie you don't know anything about, and you go into it, and it pleasantly surprises you. And that's kind of how I would sum up Trespassers. I didn't have high expectations for this movie, in part because I didn't know anything about it. And I went into it with pretty low expectations, and I have to say, I enjoyed myself with this movie. It engaged me, it entertained me, and yeah, it's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about it. So I will say this isn't your typical home invasion movie. They try to throw you off and subvert your expectations. It's not standard in the sense that it's pretty black and white, like couple at home, knock on the door, and people try to force their way in and screw with them, and they have to hide from them and survive for their life. There is some of that at some point in this movie, but the movie doesn't go exactly how you think it's going to, and that's my first pro about it. I kind of like how it wasn't a typical home invasion movie story, at least not at the beginning. Not that straightforward people not that straightforward people home invasion, people attacked, have to fight to survive, but rather the movie tries to subvert expectations several times throughout the movie, and it has some success with doing so. I'm not going to say total success, but some success. And I enjoyed it enough. It makes it stand out to me by virtue of its uniqueness in that regard. So, again, this movie's not going to be for everybody. Some people probably aren't going to like the subverting of expectations and that it doesn't play like a typical home invasion movie, although it really does at the end of the day. But you kind of takes you on this journey through the movie, and I kind of appreciate that myself. I like the fact that it's different and it has some twists and turns. And as I said, they work for the most part, not entirely. So that's my first pro. I thought the acting and the performances were pretty strong in this movie across the board, especially by Angela Trimber and Carlo Rhoda. Those were the two that really stood out to me. Very believable. I thought everybody was believable and did a good job making this an engaging watch. Even some of the characters that we aren't necessarily likable, I thought they were performed very well by the actors or actresses. The movie has some decent character backstory, which we don't always get in horror movies or home invasion movies, especially as it relates to Sarah, Estelle, and Joseph. Sort of the that triangle there in more ways than one, I'll say, without giving too much away. But yeah, I thought it worked for the most part to just have enough background without going over the top with it. Um, just enough for us to care, at least about a couple of the characters, maybe not all of them. I thought the movie had some really solid atmosphere and tension, especially in the latter part of the second act and the third act. Some pretty intense scenes going on, especially when some characters have to devolve some information that the bad guys think that they know. Um, yeah, it's pretty brutal stuff for a couple of scenes there. Um, it was cool seeing for Feruza Balk in this movie, playing kind of a mysterious character. She's not necessarily in the movie as long as you might like. Or if you just see the trailer and you see that she's in here, you're probably hoping she's going to be in the whole movie, especially if you're a fan of hers. She's in the movie for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, I would say. But when she's there, she's there, and she's very good. And like I said, I like her character, very kind of mysterious, and you're not quite sure, which is kind of what this movie plays on. But she does a good job, and as I said, her character is important because it moves the more intense parts of the movie forward. And then also I have to say the score, the score to this movie, while being kind of weird, kind of having this disco type theme, it actually worked for being a home invasion movie. I feel like this disco score worked, and I enjoyed it. To be honest with you, I think it helps to ratchet up the suspense, especially as the movie goes on. So yeah, guys, my overall, it's just a really engaging and entertaining flick, a good home invasion movie, a solid home invasion movie. So those are my pros for the movie. But it is not a perfect movie, and so I do have some cons. Um, my first one is not all the twists and subverting of expectations work, mainly as it relates to one of the characters' involvement with doing bad things or bad things going on midway through the movie. I thought it was a little obvious and it was easy for me to spy, so it wasn't necessarily they didn't really do it. They didn't subvert my expectations there. I kind of knew that a certain character was involved the way they didn't want you to know the character was involved. So that really didn't work as well. But as I said, some of the other things with our main characters did. Now, mainly for Feruza Balk's character, I should say. Per usual for a horror movie like this, a lot of characters make a lot of bad or stupid decisions that don't make any sense and that ends up leading to their demise or that of their friends, aka Sarah, aka Victor. That's all I'm going to say without giving too much away. But yeah, I know it's a lot of it's plot driven. They have to move the story forward and stuff by having characters not actually using their brain as much in their head. So that's definitely something that stuck out. Another big con, my last really big con, I would say for me, is I feel like the pacing is off a little bit in this movie. Not so much from a time standpoint, because I think it's about 88 minutes. So it's just that sweet spot of an hour and a half, which is, if you know me and my channel, you know that's where I like my horror movies for the most part, with few exceptions. But the pacing is off in terms of some of the scenes seeming out of place in this movie that don't really make a lot of sense based on the overall narrative of what's going on at the time. I'll give you an example. There's two characters that are discussing being honest about their relationship struggles at a time where they really shouldn't be worried about that. They should be worried about some life and death kind of things that are going on. And this scene just felt really out of place. I think it should have came into the movie about 15 or 20 minutes before it did. Um, So yeah, it just was really weird, and so that's kind of the pacing that I'm talking about. It's more like scenes jumping around, and not the movie being a completely coherent, just kind of straight across the board pacing. Like I said, time wise, the pacing's fine, but scene wise, it kind of jumps around, and it makes it kind of weird overall as a narrative, in my opinion. Some people might have a problem. I didn't so much, but they might have a problem with the fact that most of the home invasion aspect of this movie doesn't start as soon as they might like it to. It's more in the third act with a lot of relationship drama going on in the first act and even the first half of the second act, I would say. So that's going to be something. That's where some people are going to be turned off by this movie, and some people are going to, like me, are going to enjoy that uniqueness and that different aspect to it. But you have to watch it to find out for yourself. If you're just somebody that wants to just turn on a movie and see home invasion pretty much from the start, then you're probably going to be disappointed in this one because it tries to do a little bit more and say a little bit more than just your standard hack and slash home invasion. Although it does have some of that, you just got to be patient with the movie. And then my final con is the character of Victor. Why? Why are these other three characters and Estelle, Joseph, and Sarah hanging around with this guy? Particularly Estelle. I don't understand what the appeal to this guy is. You know, he's your typical asshole kind of character that we tend to get in a lot of slasher movies. Um, from Friday the 13th remake comes to mind right away, but there's numerous other movies where you can find these characters at nauseum basically, and it just I don't know. Again, he's part of this. He's part of this. I don't want to give too much away, but he's part of the story of this movie, the uniqueness of this movie. There's a reason for him to exist, but it's just like characters like that. I just don't necessarily think you need to rely on the a-hole part of it as much as a lot of times that they do. So those are the cons that I have, and some of the cons that other people might have. But overall, I have to say, guys, I really enjoyed this. It's sort of an underrated gem in my Screen Factory collection. IFC Midnight's one of those that is kind of hit or miss for me. There's some in my, probably have about 5 or 10 in my Screen Factory collection. I've watched some of them. Some of them are pretty good. Other ones kind of missed the mark. This one hit it for me. This one I really enjoyed. And like I said, it was sort of it's kind of a gem for me, especially from a home invasion standpoint, and just sort of subverting of expectations and not having it just be completely predictable, even though there's some predictability to it. I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed Trespassers, and I'm glad to have it in my Screen Factory collection. So 7.5 out of 10 for Trespassers. Go ahead and comment down below if any of you guys have seen this movie, Trespassers. I know it was streaming on Hulu. I don't know if it's streaming anymore on there. Of course, I bought it through Screen Factory, but it might still be streaming. I think you can actually watch it on YouTube. Actually, I think I actually saw the full movie on there. Now, what it's going to look like, I can't tell you, but you could probably find it streaming somewhere else with all the streaming platforms they are. I would maybe check Hulu and see if it's still on there, but otherwise, I know it's on YouTube. But go ahead and comment down below what you guys thought of Trespassers if you've seen it. I would recommend everybody giving it at least a one-time watch, unless you're somebody that just wants to turn your mind off sort of home invasion movie and watch people get hacked and slashed. Then I would probably not recommend it because you'll be disappointed most likely with this movie. But otherwise, check it out. 7.5 out of 10 is what I say. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. I'm still hoping to get about 2 or 3 more. Well, probably 2 more out with about a week to go in the month here. Maybe 3. We'll see. Please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content, including what I have coming up after this series. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you for watching, but stay scared. Bye.